Hi Sam, how are you doing today?
Good, how are you?
Doing good. Thanks for joining me again. I appreciate you coming back for a second week so we can kind of dig deeper into what we were talking about last week. So kind of just remind me again of kind of what brought you in and maybe if anything's changed from last week or what's kind of currently going on in your life.
Sure. So I've just been feeling really burnt out between like school and work. And I'm getting towards the end of my schooling, so there's a lot of, paperwork that comes with that. Looking into getting a job, looking into the licensure exam, all of good stuff, and it's just kind of like weighing really heavily on me. I've been feeling like very burnt out, exhausted, tired recently, and that's kind of why I came in the first place to kind of look at some maybe techniques I could use to help with that, or kind of try and figure it out.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Well, first, I just want to validate everything you're saying. It's completely normal to feel that way. I have a lot of clients that come in that are kind of getting to that brink towards the end of school. It seems so close yet so far. So, everything you're feeling is completely normal. I know when I was going through, my program, I felt the same exactly too. So, the thing you're feeling is normal. But yeah, I mean, I love that's the goal to be able to get you to get some techniques that you can then use on your own. So it sounds like the event that's currently kind of taking place in your life is kind of transitioning into a new period, and that's just coming with a lot of extra, things like paperwork and things like that that are coming along with that. So if you kind of had one feeling to describe what you're feeling right now, I know you kind of mentioned like stress and like that kind of thing. Kind of overall, like one, encapsulating feeling about just how you're feeling about everything and how that's kind of been affecting you mentally or physically.
I feel like if I had to put into one word, I would put it as overwhelmed.
Hmm.
And it's left me feeling like pretty exhausted all the time. I'm feeling just like a very continuous level of stress.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, it because of that I haven't been able to like, sleep well. I haven't really been doing activities that I like to do as much because I'm just like all I can think about is just how overwhelming the situation feels.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Um, I mean, like I said, I think everything you're feeling is completely normal to feel very overwhelmed. I think anyone in your position would feel that way. Um, do you believe there's a certain reason why you feel overwhelmed? I know you said like, kind of that transition from school and all the paperwork and things like that, but I'm kind of looking to extend beyond that a little bit and kind of maybe get to, a root of a deeper issue of, maybe why you feel so overwhelmed. I don't know if it's, fear of like the future and things, kind of the way things are gonna go, or if it's just, kind of just an overwhelming sense of you feel like you just have a lot to accomplish right now.
I just feel like there's a lot on my plate at the moment. For, like the past 2.5 years, I kind of have just had like a very steady, like I know what's going on. And so, I do my schoolwork and then I do my, my day job. And I kind of gotten into this routine. And now that I'm really coming to an end to it, the routine feels like it's very shaken up. So like a lot of the things that I still have to do in my routine are, still there, but there's a lot of extra, extenuating circumstances that are put on top of it. And I think because I felt so comfortable having that like regular routine, having a lot of things put on top of it, and like, granted it's not out of nowhere, but still, like all at once I have a lot of like more things to worry about. I think that that's kind of what is making me feel the way that I'm feeling.
Yeah. Like I said, I think anybody would definitely feel that way. Do you feel like there's ever been a time in your life where you've like felt this like overwhelmed or like stressed before, or is this like a new feeling that's been coming on as you're, approaching your deadline to graduation and all the things that come along with that?
I think usually when I have times of like really large transitions, I tend to like start feeling like this. I think back, like especially finishing high school and going to college, or like moving away from home and then moving out of the dorms. Those kind of transitional changes where a lot of things feel like they're changing in my life. I can kind of remember feeling this way as well.
Are there certain things that you did during that time that you felt like kind of helped you, or do you feel like, that's why you're here now to be able to come up with those techniques, or is there anything in the past that maybe helped you out even just a little bit? Or like I said, do you feel like you're kind of just like at a loss with kind of what to do next?
I think in the past, it wasn't quite as severe as it feels now. Just because, even when I was doing those things, like when I was going from high school to college, it was a big change, but I still knew like, okay, I just have to go to school. I have to do my classwork, my homework. And that's, obviously something that I've already been doing since I started kindergarten. And so, I'm really familiar with that idea. And so now, even though I've gone through internships and things like that, the idea of like I won't be in school for essentially the first time that I can remember
Hmm.
in my life. And I'll be starting like a completely new day job. It feels like there's much more that's shifting
Hmm.
than what I've had shift in the past, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Um, it sounds like what you're saying is like the weight of it is, more severe. There's more, at stake, I guess, you know what I mean? Because it's, your future and starting this new chapter, of your life. And like I said, I feel like I've had so many other, people in your situation feel the exact same way. But I guess what I would just kind of remind you is just, finding ways to like reshape your thoughts, right? Like, even though those instances you've gone through in the past maybe weren't as severe, didn't hold as much weight, like you got through it. And, this task up ahead is A, you're not alone in, how you feel. With that, and it's not a foreign feeling at all. And then also just reminding yourself, you've gone through this in the past. This is definitely something that, you're able to get through now, and just kind of reshaping those thoughts a little bit. It is unfamiliar, but, validating your feelings at the same time. It is unfamiliar territory. It's something you've never done before. But yeah, like I said, you're able to get through it in the past, and, the challenges up ahead, are things that you can definitely get through, and just kind of, being patient with yourself, reminding yourself like this is uncharted territory, so you're going to feel the way that you felt before. But you're not the first person in your situation to feel this way, graduating, starting. Is there a way that you kind of just in general like keep yourself like kind of in a routine or like a schedule, anything that kind of helps you in that aspect? Because I feel like if you're able to kind of maybe keep yourself in a routine and, not feel so overwhelmed, that might be able to help you kind of moving forward.
There are some things that I do that I like, keep a routine with. Some things that come to mind are like, I always go to the gym on the same days with my friend. And typically I at least have, one friend online that I can play games and relax with. When I come home, I try to keep a very similar routine of, when I cook dinner, when I, play games, if I have to do any homework, what homework I get done, just kind of keeping that flow so that I can at least have one space that feels routine. And I do think that definitely helps for sure. Um, I'm not sure if that really answered your question,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah, it did. And I think that's just something to keep in mind with this new transition period coming up, trying to find things that you can keep the same so you don't feel so overwhelmed. So at least you have some structure, you have some sort of routine that things are going to be consistent in your life. I think sometimes when things are always changing, it can overwhelm us more because we kind of don't know our next steps or what's going to happen in the future. There's so many unknowns. But I think, being able to control what you can control and realizing there's things you aren't going to be able to control, and being able to keep that set routine. I liked how you mentioned a few things like being able to take that time to play games or go to the gym. And I think even just practicing, I think it's something that's come up before, but being able to practice like self-care, like that's very important. Like you're not going to be able to give 110% of yourself with this new chapter, with this new experience, with this new job, if you're not at your best self. And self-care is just a major part of that. So, um, kind of as we wrap up here, that's something that I would just encourage you to look towards, for the next week, and we can discuss it next week. But not, carrying the weight of those consequences so heavily, try to not think about so many what ifs, but being able to control what you can control. And like I said, really just keeping that structure of that set routine. I think that's something that would maybe help you moving forward. And like I said, we can kind of discuss that next week if that was something that was helpful for you or not, or felt like you kind of calmed some of, the overwhelmingness, or if there's other techniques that you want to kind of look at, we can do that too.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good.
Perfect. Do you have any other questions for me, concerns, anything that you want to bring up before we end?
No,
Okay,
I'm
perfect.
pretty good.
Well, thanks for joining me, and then I'll see
Yeah,
you next
thank
week.
you.
Bye.
Sounds good. Bye.